Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay, Atlanta's new standard in payroll. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Brent Barbee with Conquer. Welcome, Brent.
Thank you, Lee. Great to be here.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about Conquer. How are you serving folks?
Yeah, so Conquer is a media agency. Specifically, we like to say a paid media agency because we deal with, the strategy of placing ads and the execution of getting that done for our clients.
So what was the evolution of the idea? Have you always been involved in this line of work?
Really, I have. Most of my career, I've been in some sort of media work or advertising work. I started in ad sales, TV ad sales, way back in late 90s, early 2000s, and then went agency side with a full service agency. And out of that, we actually birthed Conquer in 2015. That's right here in Atlanta.
So from a client standpoint, are they coming to you to just solve this specific problem, or better, what would be the problem they're coming to you to solve?
Normally, we like to sort of partner at least over a year's time with them, go on the journey of kind of executing the media aspect of their marketing plan, or, maybe more involved just overall with their marketing plan. But the relationship's really like a partnership, I like to say. I mean, we have a seat at that table, talk through their various, challenges, maybe with what they're trying to accomplish with marketing. And then, like I say, like to try to mediatize those business goals into things that we can put out into the marketplace.
Now, isn't media part of every marketing strategy? I mean, you have to get your message into the hands of your possible consumers, and some means that media usually is that path. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, it depends on, you're right. There's some lever there, whether it be, I think some, lean into the PR side of getting their message out, and others have a very methodical, budgeted media budget, and they fully expect to spend money to get the word out, and they want to measure that return on investment. So we're really on that side of the budget. We'll advise on what the budget should be, based on what they're trying to accomplish. But oftentimes the client will have a specified budget, which will then begin to divvy up, and we get the, media exposure they need with that budget.
Now, is there a niche you serve? Do you have a sweet spot in terms of industry or types of clients you like to work with?
Yeah, I think we're sort of all over the map portfolio wise, which is great because, we can kind of weather any types of like weird industry trends and things that could arise if we were more so a specialty agency. But I would characterize our client base as sort of an emerging brand, a challenger brand type situation most of the time, where we're taking on a much larger competitor in the space. But we deal with national brands, and we deal with those national media brands to get those media plans taken care of. Are they mostly B2C, or do you do some B2B? Mostly B2C. Yeah, we have a wide range. We work with consumer product. We've got CPG brands like, Farm Rich and CPAC that are fun, kind of frozen food snack brands. And then we have some, more sort of interesting things like Arkin, which is an attraction in northern Kentucky, south of Cincinnati. That's a literal place you can visit and see how big that, Noah's Ark actually was. And it's it's just amazing. We work with faith-based, we work with CPG, we work with a lot of different types of clients. It's a lot of fun.
Now, when you're having those initial conversations, are they coming to you because they've had a media partner and it's not working out, or they're coming to you maybe for the first time to do an extensive media buy or a media expansion?
Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, we definitely have some that are unhappy with maybe who they expected to do this for them, and they're looking to make a change. And then we have others that are sort of living the, 50% of this must be wasted. I just don't know which 50%. So can I get a better, idea by hiring someone like us to come in? We do some auditing services that are just that. We look at what they're currently, what they currently have on their media plan and active, and are there things that they could be doing better from our perspective? And so a lot of the times that's how our relationships start. It's just trying to scratch at the surface of the problem and then dig deeper once we all have done that due diligence.
So the first step in an onboarding situation is to kind of audit where they've been, and then maybe kind of understand, hey, was the problem in the last thing that you did a function of the content quality or creative versus where it was and the frequency it was shown in that environment?
Exactly. All things are considered, certainly, but media, when you measure it, it gives you a great idea, especially in the digital space now. You can see what messages were responded to, had more engagement, which ones really didn't, gain the traction that you want, and how to maybe introduce some new strategies based on other client work we've done that could help them, because there's some similarity there.
So how does one kind of track the effectiveness of any given media outlet when it comes to a purchase, especially in consumer products? Like if I pick up that frozen food at Publix, how do you know I did it because I saw the ad on, on the Kelly Clarkson show versus the ad that I listened to on, some radio show I was listening to on the way to the Publix?
Sure. Yeah. There are definitely there's a lot of definitive ways you can measure. And we always caution, though, to not, to not be so concerned with measurement that, the message doesn't cut through. So, for example, you're making it harder on the by punching in a code or, doing some certain things just so you'll know that it worked. But, today's media market's gotten way more turnkey in that way. Promo codes have become more prevalent, scanning QR codes. There's things that we can do that the consumer can appreciate, that we can also, get a good indication that that media program is working. And, in the instance also with retail, many of our retailers also have their own retailer-specific media now that really connects those dots more effectively for us. So we like to incorporate those tactics to not only does it reward the, say, Kroger customer, but it also gives us a good indication or precise indicator that that worked. So.
Now, in your work, you refer to what you do as marketing science. Like, what percent is science and what percent is art when it comes to creating advertising that, sells?
Sure. I think, a lot of the science part, whether it be doing, audience research or testing audiences in the digital space to see if they're responsive, that can be scientific. We try to take information too, and from our past plans, and see if it's helping us predict maybe tactics and media ad weight that would be, effective for our next wave of media. So it's, it's an information loop, if you will, that we're educating ourselves on and becoming better as we move forward each time. The art part, that's really, can we measure some of the message? Are we doing A/B testing between images that we can see which one, the consumer seem to respond to better than the other? And then sometimes, there's just kind of a persuasive magic that a great creative director, applies to a message that it's hard to measure, but everyone knows it was sort of the artistic approach that helped it stand out. So there's a little bit of everything going on and working together to make an effective ad plan.
Is there any advice you can share for entrepreneurs or business owners listening right now? Is there any low-hanging fruit that they can take advantage of themselves?
Sure. I think, the interesting part about today's media market is that many things are becoming many things are able to be managed by an independent entrepreneur. Maybe it's somebody on their staff, but those platforms are set up so that it doesn't require necessarily a specialist to do it in its simplest kind of basic getting started form. Facebook advertising, for example, or Instagram, all these paid social vehicles, and LinkedIn too, are fairly turnkey and really built to help those that really don't have a tremendous amount of expertise in the space. That they're training you up. They want you to be able to use it and to empower it for your business.
So do you treat, when it comes to media, do you treat a Facebook or LinkedIn ad campaign in a similar manner you would as a television ad or like a more traditional media, or are they?
Sort of. I think with LinkedIn, for example, it's a platform that allows you to reach out to individuals. I think, there's a flooding of LinkedIn right now that is probably becoming a little annoying to some people and some of the ways that you can be sort of solicited on that platform. But it is a very sophisticated social media platform. And if you embrace some of the things that they've built to help you reach out, say B2B, you can really be precise with it. And yeah, I think you have to think about it sort of like a TV spot, but it can be even more personalized because of the platform.
Is there a story you can share, maybe a success story in terms of working with a client, and maybe share you don't have to name the client, but share the problem that they had when they came to you and how you were able to help them get to a new level?
Sure. I think where we really see some tangibility oftentimes is when we're trying to capture leads for a client that can then be handed off directly to their sales force or, whomever they wish. And we've got numerous stories really of where we've built subscription bases in a very, flywheel snowball kind of build month over month. And it's very measurable and it's just really rewarding to see, I think, for our media planners and buyers. And also the client can see that there's a tangible effect to their advertising, whether they had somebody opt in to give their number or email or whatever to engage further. We've had several like that have been trial subscription based that have worked out really well through the power of media.
Now, when you're working with somebody's sales funnel, how do you kind of maybe score the value of a lead that comes in that's at the top of the funnel that, maybe agrees to join a list, and then they work their way through the funnel to the final part where they buy something? Do you kind of give that person or a different score as they work their way down, or is there more value to being, at different parts of the funnel in terms of what the client expectation is?
Sure. I think, as media planners and buyers, we think about the funnel a little differently in that each stage of the funnel requires almost a different tactic, paid media tactic. So, for example, at the top of the funnel, you would have more broad awareness. That may be our TV tactics and broadcast or what have you, that a little harder to measure, but we know they're getting through. And then as the individual opts in and we get more information on them and they say they'd like to know more about the product, what have you, then we switch tactics to, nurture that lead. But we also have things going on at the stage of the funnel, even if they haven't opted in, that are a little closer to home, whether it be, again, as I mentioned, maybe on a social page, you're reaching out to them in a more personalized way, or that's the way it feels. And then, even down to the bottom of, more conversion, where this person is literally maybe typing their information into an ad unit and it's very transactional and it's the completion of the funnel until the salesperson, if you will, would get in contact with them, or they make the purchase themselves on a D2C type site.
So if you had that kind of equation, so you have an awareness, you have a nurture, you have a conversion, you have a purchase, like is an awareness, like a value of 1, say, because that's the beginning, and then a purchase is a value of 100? Like, how would you kind of measure that? Or would you use different way to measure that kind of a journey?
Yeah, I think, when we talk funnel, we want to be as efficient as we can on the broader reaching topic or tactics. We look at things like cost per thousand impressions, or, what's that going to cost us? That's kind of a common, metric we use when we're buying media. And then as we may be willing to pay a little higher CPM as we get to tactics that are a little more precise and have a higher likelihood of conversion down the funnel, maybe that CPM for that tactic can be higher than, maybe the $7 to $10 we were willing to pay for the broader reaching, if that makes sense.
So you always use kind of a cost per thousand as the guide.
Sure. Yep. That's certainly a buying metric we look at, and to keep ourselves accountable. We don't want to overpay in something that's going to be less targeted.
But also you want to, at some point somebody has to buy something. So having lots of impressions of people who never buy anything, even if it's cheap, isn't a good value in the long run.
Exactly. Right.
Now, how much of your work is spent kind of managing the expectations of your client? Because I would imagine, a lot of people think that, if I do this, I should get a return at the end, even though, you'd like to get a return, but there's no obvious guarantees on anything.
Yep. Yeah. I think we really try to set, expectations. You ask, how much time is spent managing those expectations. Well, a lot. We have an entire vertical on our team, account strategy that, primarily deals with client interface and keeping us accountable to the business objective we were setting out to accomplish. And, but, we answer it with a lot of communication. We answer it with a lot of, on the front end, setting a metric or expectation that we can all sort of rally around as a reasonable expectation to reach. Or if it's a stretch goal, we all agree this is a stretch goal. We're going to test this a little bit, and then, we communicate via like dashboard visualizations frequently, and that may mean weekly with some and maybe a little less or a little more with others. But communication is really the key. And it is it's a lot of our time, but we're meant to be a partner and a good, steward of their dollars. So we definitely open the doorway to communication. And like I said, we provide them a dashboard and everything that they can even log in on their own oftentimes to check up on things.
So what do you need more of? How can we help you?
Well, I think, we're on we've got, very ambitious growth goals every year. We've had a tremendous trajectory since 2015, and 2023 was our biggest year, 2022 was our biggest year yet. So we just really want to keep the momentum rolling, and, more introductions to partners we could work with would be great. I hope, this, we definitely want to grow in Atlanta. We're HQ'd here, but we're working with brands all over the country. So
now, a good client for you is the actual brand, or do you work with marketing agencies that don't specialize in media as in depth as you? Like, who is that good client for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate it. We work directly with brands, and then, yes, we work with other agencies, several here in Atlanta and other areas of the country where that's one of the things that isn't under their roof, and that's paid media. So we many times will come in as that paid media partner to complete sort of their, account management team. And those have been really fruitful as well. And we've had relationships like that for years. So, I encourage other agencies, love to network with them and find out, how we can help them, even if it just means coming in and, again, giving them kind of a consultancy of approach. We've worked with some brand strategy agencies that just want to know, could media solve this problem? And those are fun meetings and fun relationships as well.
And then the paid media, you're not excluding social media, right? So paid media could include the social media platforms as well, right?
Yeah. Every social platform has paid ads. Some are better than others, but they certainly monetize their platforms that way. And so we just feel like we want to be a good partner to those platforms, even by doing those ads well for clients. But as I mentioned, a lot of those you can kind of go direct to and test it, but it sooner or later becomes a full-time job when it begins to work for you.
So if somebody wants to learn more, have a more substantive conversation with you or somebody on the team, what's the website?
Sure. It's conquerww.com. So Conquer Worldwide or conquerww.com.
Well, Brent, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.